our neighbors. That's what I mean by mission field. And finally, what I will not share is a set of steps, right? If you just do step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, you will have a thriving. No, I will not do that. That will be a technical approach. And that technical approach is the problems that can be solved applying existing know-how and the organization's current problem-solving processes. And I think that we do not have those, we don't know how to do that. So we have to, this is more of a adaptive challenge, right? An adaptive process. What it is that requiring individuals of an organization to alter their ways as the people themselves are the problem, and we'll see why we are the problem, and not meaning the congregations, not meaning the conference, not meaning, I think it's a system. I always thought about systems as as a system. That's what I'm talking about. But however, as Paul was saying, but also the solution lies within us. We have the tools. That's the exciting part about it. Okay. So I'd like to start with scripture, Philippians 2, verses 5 through 11. By the way, that was my dissertation for my pre-doctoral work, so that is very dear to me. But I will just read it. I don't think I have it here. I just read it to you. Adopt the attitude that was in Christ Jesus, though he was in the form of God, he did not consider being equal with God something to exploit, but he emptied himself by taking the form of a slave, and by becoming like human beings. He found himself in the form of a human. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Therefore, God highly honored him and gave him the name that is above all names, so that at the name of Jesus, everyone in heaven, on earth, and under the earth might bow, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. How many of you have heard these many times? And this is the theological underpinnings of what I'm going to tell you. So we're going to start kind of theologically, and the kind of the framework as Paul was saying, and then we go into the practical stuff. Okay, so just work with me. So we have all heard about this. We talked about this, about maybe it's the fundamentals on your or your paperwork for ordination, Trinitarian stuff, and this is you use this one maybe. So there is a lot of readings and I'm telling you, there's a lot of work, as you will know, about incarnation. But there are 3 things that I want to highlight about this. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other. I'm not going to exhaust the whole thing as to why, how God, be God, fitted in a human body and how that work, and mind B can be in mind A. That I'm not going to answer any of that. However, what I want to emphasize is 3 things. Number 1, the idea of kenosis, of emptying oneself to becoming something else. The concept of emptying is key. We can glean some of the consequences of emptying ourselves. So number 1, not considering to exploit, to exploit. Now the word that we translate like exploit is harpagmos, which means somebody who was trying to desperately to grab, to hold on, eagerly trying to hold on to something that is they desire with great intent. So maybe Paul has in mind Adam, Caesar, that they tried to desperately to cling to power. If you read Adam, Genesis 3, who did it? I don't know, the women you gave me, all those kind of things. So he's definitely, he's not confessing. And if you also translate it also in the Greco-Roman world, Caesar is the one that is clinging on to power, and that it is trying to exploit that power. So let go of power. So the one thing of kenosis is to empty, to let go of that power. And number 2 is then Jesus took form of a servant. Now the word that we translate as servant is doulos, which is slave. So every Christmas we preachers like to emphasize, right, that Jesus could have been having a palace, which is servants, yet he chose as a humble stable, his palace, and shepherds his company for his birth. So show vulnerability, right? So kenosis, it is empty oneself, not grasping that power, letting go of that power, and then becoming a servant. And finally, he humbled himself. So after not choosing to rest and exploit his position as son of God, and taking the form of a human, and then humble himself as a servant, Jesus not only that, but he gave his life to being obedient to the point of death. It is the most humiliating way, capital punishments of Jesus' time, right? So what I would say is that do what is necessary to do to accomplish the mission, the goal. So putting all these theological components together, there is no wonder why here's the foolishness. Why the early audiences of the gospel throughout or thought that Christians were proclaiming was foolish. Why would the God, in this case, give out his power status to adopt a mortal body, which in the Greco-Roman society and culture was adding ludicrous elements to already foolish proposition, right? Why would something ethereal, a spirit, will adopt a form of a person, a human? And not only that, a mortal body, but then he became a servant, a slave. And not only that, but he died on a cross. I mean, that it is foolishness, ludicrous, stupidity. And nonetheless, that is why I think it is so powerful. That is so powerful. So incarnation, today, I want to bring it back now, as I said, as a part of not just theological and just kind of a fancy way to think about things, but to make it pretty practical, is relevant for us for redemption, but also for formation of Christian ethics, how we go about doing our thing. So incarnation presents us a way of model for adaptive leaders. And I just want to remind you of, oh shoot, I forgot. Anyway, motivation, power, oh, here we go. So let's just remind adaptive leaders. Can we go back? There you go. That we are the problem, but also we have the solutions. So what I will invite you to do, so just as Jesus, we imitating that as well as incarnate, thinking of that foolishness of incarnation. So what is asking us and to respond back is, so Jesus left behind who he was and emptied himself. So Jesus let go of his power. Jesus became a servant, a slave, and so Jesus modeled how vulnerability looks like. And Jesus humbled himself and died on a cross. So Jesus did everything that he needed to do to accomplish the mission. So those three things I want for us to remember throughout this time. So let go of the power, vulnerability, and humbleness. Everything that we can do to accomplish the work. Can you see that in there? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
That's much better.
Great. All right. So I'm going to, so the idea is to imitate Christ. And that's another word, Thomas à Kempis, Imitation of Christ. If you want to read that one, that's a good book. So, but anyway, in this case, for us to imitate, it is for us to let go of our power, be humble, and divine. So here we go with the more practical things. All right. So just to say, how many would agree with me that our country is changing? I see it in these ways. These tectonic things are moving and they are changing rapidly. So let me just tell you some things. According to the National Center for Education and Statistics, this is .gov, between 2000 and 2017, the percentage of public school students who were white decreased, listen to this, from 61% to 48%. The percentage of students who were black decreased from 17 to 15%. In contrast, the percentage of public students who were Hispanic increased from 16 to 77% during that same period. So now there is more, on a student level, there's white minority. Census.gov anticipates that by 2030 marks of demographic turning point in the United States. Beginning this year, or 2030, all baby boomers will be older than 65. And beyond 2030, the US population is predicted to grow slowly and age considerably and become racially diverse. By 2045, the white population will be the minority. In the largest bloc, but the minority overall. Of course, Hispanic have grown 21%. Of course, this is all around the census time, so just keep that in mind. and also increased with African American and Asian. If you want to know the fastest, and what would you imagine that it is the fastest segment of the population?
Fastest what?
A growing segment of the population. Fastest statistically. No, it's not. We have more numbers, yes. Asian. Asian is the one who's growing statistically the fastest. I'm talking about 1,000% and everything, but you don't see that because the numbers don't have as many. All right, so I've done a lot of work, a lot of research in Oklahoma, and I know that Todd is kind of, come on with the statistics. But anyway, I did, as I said, a lot of stuff, and you will hear more here in a minute. So across our 77 counties in Oklahoma, the population has contracted, gone smaller, over 5% from 2010 to 2021. And all counties in Oklahoma are multi-ethnic, multicultural, 68% white, give or take, and 32% other. I think it's safe to say, have the assumption that something similar happens in Arkansas. Something, hopefully. Maybe I always say, maybe you don't see it immediately in your mission field, but overall, this is happening everywhere as well. So I want to say here, here it is. So here is how it looks in 2016, how it looked, white, no Hispanic. Oh, by the way, I will say this joke, Hispanics are considered white, so I made it. Yay. Now, anyway, in 2016, 51% were white, and by 2060, 36% will be white. That's it. It will be the largest block, however, it's going to be the minority. All right, so Jesus let go of his power. So I'm coming back to the power, and we will see what power I'm talking about. While the students are now the minority in the Oklahoma public schools by 2017, its schools remain divided along racial and economic lines through the U.S. From K to 12 schools, right? In 2030 marks another demographic, and I think this is very telling, especially because of, the recent happenings in our country. I'm not going to get political. I'm just saying about the message, and this is why I'm going with it. By 2030 marks another demographic first in our country. Beginning that year, the population will age, or the aging population. But now the growth in this country is projected to be primarily by immigration. Mm-hmm. Now I think you start to see the resonance in our national discourse.
Will you say that again, please? I didn't follow that.
By 2030, the population is going to stop growing at the rate that it's growing now. It is going to be aging. And this is the first time that we will be more elderly or in the aging population, and it's going to be in less on the younger version, the younger segment of the population. By the same token, then the growth is going to come not necessarily by birth here, but more by immigration. All right. Okay. So talking about the power, so we are becoming more diverse, and that is just a fact. However, nonetheless, our denomination, we chose a particular path. In 2017, according to our own estimations, the com.org, we thought, or we said that we were 90% white as a denomination. Around that same time, Pew Research released a study of racially diverse groups, religious groups. And of the 30, even counting atheists, of 30, we were in the bottom 26. 94% white. And on similar study, rating the most affluent denominations, we were top 10. So I have researched human conditions and congregations to either thrive or close their doors. And there are 3 consistent data points. And I did a study over 100 and something churches, 120 churches, I think, if I remember correctly, that they closed their doors from 2010 to 2021. And this is in Oklahoma, okay? This may not affect you or it may be very different. And these 3 data points, doesn't matter if they were rural, suburban, urban, inner city, doesn't matter. There were the 3 consistent data points. Number 1, diverse student body. When a student body of a particular zip code for the congregation set is very diverse, say 50 to 60% white or less, so 50 to 60% white or less. Number 2, where educational levels in said zip code, or the set, where the high school, when people have high school diplomas or less, is high, 60% or above, meaning, you make sense what I'm saying? Okay. And when the median income house of said zip code fluctuates between 25,000 to 45,000, congregations become financially and ministry-wise unsustainable. And the opposite is true. Congregations sitting in zip codes with a student body homogeneous wide, where the population is at least 50% educated, high school diplomas, beyond high school diplomas, and the median household income starts at 55 and more, 55,000 and more, and congregations tend to do okay. Yeah, as I said, the opposite is. So for whatever reason, whatever, array of for complex situations and reasons, we as a denomination have chosen to serve primarily, statistically, white, middle, upper middle, high classes of our mission fields. That is our thing, as a denomination. Financially, our congregations only need a few important donors, and oral budgetary headaches can go away. Culturally, we have stuck with what we know since 1968, which marked ironically the beginning of our denomination, United Methodism, but also the beginning of our decline. So let go of our power. Therefore, to imitate Christ is for us as a denomination, as annual conference, and as congregations, to let go of the power, so we are desperately and eagerly trying to hold on to the past that does not exist anymore. Right? That past does not exist anymore. The good old days are gone. Well, the good old days as we understood it are gone. We're desperately and eagerly trying to hold on to ways of ministry that produce more of the same white congregations in suburban America with white, usually male, charismatic, opinionated leaders. And we leave these types of congregations as marks of success. He concurrently ministry with other, in this case with Hispanic Latino ministries, and inner city or rural ministry, which there's a whole study now also that rural America has become the new inner city. Food banks, food deserts, a lot of immigration, a lot of diversity, and a lot of drugs and all those kind of addictions, and everything that you associate with the inner city is becoming in rural America. So we see it usually as something that we should do, should be done at best, and at worst like a nuisance, right? So this type of ministry with the other, at best intentions allocates a modest budget behind its efforts, has daunting demands from its leaders, self-sustainability really fast, rapid growth, techniques specialized for other people, like you can do it with evangelize and build it up, they will come, right? And furthermore, our systems as conference, as local congregations, in my experience, have proven not adaptive enough to mold to new and creative possibilities of ministry. So what is that result? And I have heard this many times, over and over and over again. Well, we have tried it, it just does not work. Yes, have you heard that?
Yeah.
It's too hard, and it's too expensive. But we give it our best shot, and we move on. So let go of our power. Oh, before the exercise, let go of our power. To imitate Christ. So as a conference, what do we look like if we allocate significant financial resource to endeavor to ministry with the other, Hispanic, Latino, African American, Asian, whatever it is, and build intercultural competent leadership. Once we build this leadership, allocated in different effective ministries that can be doing for the other. Enter an intercultural journey to know more about our own culture, the colors, how we think and how we know. Be truly open to other experiences and the ways to understand reality. All clergy to start a rigorous and intentional process of intercultural development. All clergy. Because this is not the future, this is not, well, only if I am appointed there. It's changing. Now this is another one, maybe you will kick me out here after this. For white pastors to be appointed cross-culturally and not only to be the expectation for non-white pastors to do so.
Say that again.
For white pastors to be appointed cross-culturally and not only to be the experience or the expectation that non-white pastors to be appointed cross-culturally.
Yes. I have no idea what you're saying. Say that again?
She's saying white pastors serve white churches, and it's difficult for white pastors to be cross-culturally serving in a multi-diverse congregation.
It's just as important to go both directions.
Both
Correct.
Yes, both of us, the white and minority to the predominantly white.
And find ways, many ways of being in ministry with the other that is sustainable and life-giving, kind of what Todd was talking about. Most likely will not look like the traditional way that we have always done ministries as in the year. Alright. Local congregations, this is for the conference, right? If you have any conference leadership, maybe this is for you, maybe not. But local congregations, if your immediate mission field includes schools where student body is very diverse, enter a period of discernment to seek the guidance of the Holy Spirit as to how to be in ministry with the other. What does that look like in your own personal context? Right? What does that look like? Commit your leadership to enter an intercultural development process so that you can guide your congregation toward the ministry with the other. I cannot stress that how vital that is. That you enter this intercultural competency, the cultural development on your own, personally, but also with your congregation. I cannot stress. You will do harm, believe me, when you go across lines, across cultural. You will make mistakes. You will make fool of yourself, and that kind of come back to the foolishness. That is where the part of foolishness. I will give you for instance, when I was in Elk City, and this is a silly one. When I was in Elk City, I was very excited because we started a new modern service. It was traditional, and we revamped the kind of fellowship hall. We did the modern the contemporary modern service thing, and we started, and my wife and I, we were the primary pastors there, and I was the primary pastor there preaching. And the first couple came to, new couple starting to arrive, and the new people starting to arrive, and the first couple that wanted to join, I was so excited, and I was, I asked a question. It was a transfer of membership, and when you ask the questions, and there were claps. And I was so excited, and I asked them to turn around, and I said, make sure that you come and greet them. They're gonna be back there with me, and please come and shake them. And I caught myself, and I said, shake their hand. Now this is funny. Now my wife served a Spanish-speaking congregation. She's white. She's as pale as you can imagine. And she served a Spanish-speaking community, and it was my time to say something like that to her. She say something on the lines when she was asked to be early in his ministry there. Said, could you please dismiss the people there? So basically, she said in Spanish the following: "Get out of here in peace." So anyway, just say, you're gonna make a fool of yourself, it's gonna be hard. You are, yeah, get out of here. But please, but I will come back to this, is the genuineness of your heart, that it is what is gonna matter. To be mixed with the others, a result of the desire, to be said, yes, to basically have, in that process, how can you incarnate? How can you become one with the other? I don't think you're gonna have time to do much, because that is my 20 minutes, and we're gonna have a lot of questions here, boy. What if I just send you this, what I wrote? Okay, so I'm gonna go, so we have an exercise, and just real quick, unitedstates.org. If you ever want to know, you can go to that website. It gives going to give you a lot of information about your zip code. It is free, you don't have to pay anything. It gives you, it's harnessed information from the census and IRS. So there's a lot of information about when your, oh boy. Well, not only the population that it is in your zip code and how much they make and the racial makeup of your zip code, but also when houses were built, how much they cost, so on and so forth. And there's another one, schooldigger.com. You go there, schooldigger.com is free as well. They harness information from the educational Department of Education, and you just type whatever school there is around in your mission field. And the cool thing is you go down to students, let me see what it is. The tab, in the tab students, you will see regularly there's a graph, usually from 1988 till now, and you can see how much they had changed over time. If we have time, we can talk about it and talk about that a little bit. But anyway, those great resources. So anyway, how can we let go of our power and that kind of thing? All right. Vulnerability. So let me just go to the traps of vulnerability. And so there's more stories here. Oh boy. Oh, I think I wrote too much. Okay, well, okay, so there's one thing that it is. So at times we think, real quick, at times we think that the system, right? Sometimes we think the conference is the bad guy, right? So when I was in the conference level thing, doing Hispanic ministry right on with 101, and I was trying to do all those changes. I get it, but I saw leaders themselves, those leaders who were in the trenches, and granted, we were asking them, as I said, very complex things. So tend for in a changing neighborhood, is that familiar? Where the white population has left, and there's a remaining remnant behind, and the population around it is other than what used to be in that neighborhood. Maybe that church used to be the prime church back in the day, back in the 50s, back in the 40s, back in the, even as early or as late as the 2000s. It was the church to be, where DSS came and that kind of thing came out. But now it is just a shell, if you will, of what used to be. So we are asking those pastors to be there with a decrepit building that is falling apart, and to tend to the remnant congregation that is in there. So on the one hand, I will talk about as a leader. Many times there is a resentment. Many times the leader does not want to do that, and that's what I'm talking about here on vulnerability. You don't only want, it is hard work as it is. It's not only about it, you want to do it, it's you're willing to go that extra mile to do it, right? It's not only I want to do exercise, I want to go to the gym. It is, I actually want to wake up at 5 in the morning and go to the gym. It's the same thing with doing ministry with the other. It's not only that you want to know that you have to do it, it's you want to do it. So many times the leader is not convinced of that, and there is this divide. They don't want to melt, they don't want to incarnate with the other. So I can tell you many occasions where pastors, after a period of time being deployed, they just told me, these people, the congregation, is contaminating my family. I know. So it is the leader too, right? The leader is not invested, it is not willing to be incarnate, to let go and not become vulnerable and be part of who they are, that ruins the whole thing. I have seen congregations where at best, right, think, well, let's open the door to the Spanish-speaking people in this case, right? And see what happens, kind of thing. But then when they start to see that, that they are usually are more, evangelical in the express of their faith, and they are loud when we celebrate every single darn thing. That's cultural, right? Because every single Sunday we're gonna eat.
Yeah.
We're gonna have excuses for getting together, and we start to move. Oh, you don't move the piano, or you don't move the white Jesus over here. Why? Put it back. I don't do that. When those things start to happen, the congregation starts to be, it starts to be a more, the relationship turns into a tenant-landlord. And then I have witnessed how people from the congregation go to the, when the service is over and kind of everybody's going home and the pastor goes to the parking lot, this person from, a respectable person from the congregation comes out and says, how much do you want? I give you money so that you guys leave. And that's, I'm not happened. When I have seen when the UMW used to be WMW president asked to invite the new people that were coming, and I saw this, and then when they said, well, we should have because there are some new people, we should have new leadership, how the leader stand up and almost hit that woman of color that came. And that ended the whole thing. So it is not only about, it has to be a whole change. That's what it's not a technical thing, it's an adaptive thing. It has your mind, everything has to change. Therefore, about incarnation. You want to be part of that. Whatever it takes. All right. All right. Well, I'm just jumping now here. Okay. Last thing about this. Culture is so pervasive that culture thinks for us. It's like the Matrix, the Neo. Do you like that movie? I hope so. Okay, yes. So intercultural development allows you and helps you to see the matrix, right? To see what's going on behind your thoughts, why you think the way you think. And as a person who has been doing this for a long time, I can attest that you have to check yourself all the time because culture thinks for you. And it's something that you have to be attuned at all times. Okay, well, there was another exercise. Oh boy. Okay. Let me see. Why don't we just, let me just jump to the examples. So there's as I said, I will send you the whole thing so you can see it. Okay, humbleness. So it's doing what you need to do to accomplish the task. Okay, so I can do it as fast as I can. Okay. Let me give you some examples that this can be done, right? That you say, well, it cannot be done. Yes, it can be done. I have seen many examples. I've seen people of completely different racial, ethnic makeup, socioeconomic backgrounds and everything that doing ministry with the other. In Texas, I've seen that. In Oklahoma, I've seen that. So if you feel like you cannot do it because you are of whatever racial makeup is and you cannot do that, yes, you can. It is about, as I said, the willingness and incarnate yourself in that other space. Is it possible to have two different people coming together? Yes, it can. And it happened in Howe and Heavener. When I was there in eastern Oklahoma, and there's a lot of, as you probably know, in west Arkansas, there's all these chicken plants. So there's all these people there. So there was, my Spanish-speaking congregation, there was all this chicken people working there, and then and how we're more business people and that kind of thing. So as taught, I had 10 on the white congregation, and I don't know, 25, sometimes 50. It depends on the day, depends on the Sunday with the Spanish-speaking congregation. Anyway, on the English-speaking congregation, we started a thing on Wednesday nights, a very traditional thing. We're gonna have our supper, and we have our potluck, and we have our little study Bible, and that kind of study Bible. Very traditional stuff, nothing crazy. And so some people from the Spanish-speaking congregation say, I want to go there. Say, hey, you're welcome to come. We speak English for the most part, because that is, we're coming to them. So I said, we don't care. So needless to say, after, I was there 2.5 years. So after a while, they would bring tacos and enchiladas, and they would bring, chicken and dumplings. And they couldn't, one and the other couldn't speak much English or Spanish, but there was a lot of this. So anyway, when I was about to leave, when I was appointed somewhere else, the two leaders, kind of lay leaders of each, they said that they were sister churches. Now they both disaffiliated now, but that's another reason. But it is possible. It is possible to hold that tension between, to do that. It is possible. You can be amazed what food can do, and once you put people in together, you let the Holy Spirit do those things. And again, to allow yourself to be incarnate. It's okay for it to be in awkward, uncomfortable, and hard situations. It's okay when you can live with that. If you can live with that, when people have told me, that I'm one of those people who are, destroying their country, and you can still be their leader, and you can still be their pastor, and you have to be okay with those. I have seen when congregations become indistinguishable from one another, and you can go to Gotham Memorial. The pastor at Gotham Memorial United Methodist is led by Chip Freed in Cincinnati, Ohio, and he has done this multicultural, multi-ethnic ministry. You can do that as well. You can see that. And where there's one here, it's not United Methodist in Little Rock, Arkansas. I don't know if you know about Mark DeMoss. He has done a lot of work on this. He was my coach for a while. He started, and he does a lot of alternative ways of funding, and he bought a Kmart, I think it was, out of there, and developed his thing, and you can talk all about that as well. Anyway, oh boy, it was kind of posh, but questions. What do you guys think? I don't know. As I said, I promise I send you this so that you have what I wrote and kind of the thoughts I have, one by one. But any questions, any thoughts, any?
How do you keep initial steps of connecting to unlike people from kind of becoming paternalistic right at the start? Are there some things that you can do, just put up some, guardrails, or do you not want any guardrails, just really kind of let it go?
Right.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges I've
Yes.
seen.
I think that the first one that I will do is start with intercultural development for my own congregation, my own leadership. That's what I did, and that's when in the conference we did. Every time that church will start and say, okay, we want to do this. You say, okay, that's fine. But the first thing is we need to do intercultural development. So we start with the IDI, intercultural development inventory, which is not that expensive, and you can do that, and then it helps you to know where you start from, and then you can do many things. There's we call a cultural walk, just an initial thing, and then the greatest thing that we can do is remind our leadership, particularly who are inside, what mold us, how we think the way we think, why we think the way we think. And when something makes us upset, don't ask, well, that shouldn't be. Instead of that, ask, why it makes you upset? Ask yourself why it makes you upset. And not so much as to, don't think that, but why? Why moving white Jesus makes you upset? Why is that? Why is that somebody moves a piano makes you upset? Why if somebody, I was told, Carlos, I don't want you to speak Spanish in front of me, ever again. A leader in my congregation. So, the question to that person would be, why would?
Oh, you took a good distance for that one.
It's fine.
Why would they make you, that kind of thing, so,
Yes.
and then once you start, know that you won't make mistakes, and it's okay, it's gonna be awkward, you're gonna be unintentionally racist. You're gonna be, it's gonna happen,
It's gonna happen.
it's gonna happen.
You're gonna screw up.
But, yes, but if they can see your heart, that you're genuinely trying to really, truly reincarnate with them and love them, and truly be with them, it's not gonna matter. It's not gonna matter as much
That's
as if it's more transactional. Like, I'm here, I pay, and then we leave, and that's it. So, don't see, and that's something I wrote, don't see the ministry with the other Hispanic, any other, as, well, we're gonna save the church, they're gonna come and give us the money, or numbers are gonna grow.
Right.
Don't see that as that either, because that's transactional too. Incarnate yourself in the community.
So I understand about the leadership,
Mhm.
but I'm thinking it should be necessary to make sure that the congregation, that the lay people
Mhm.
have something before the leadership come in to see if they're really ready,
Mhm.
for you who've gone through all the training and the leadership on how and who. But what happens to the church people
Mhm.
when they really aren't ready? We just wanna try this.
Right, as I said, I think that what we have done is we start with the administrative council, and then we are very adamant and emphatic that we have a certain process, a time to talk about this, a time to truly truly discern how is God acting within our lives, prepare us, to mold us, to prepare the soil, if you will, for them. And I say, in many ways, you never are ready, because things, as I say, culturally, it's just gonna be hazardous as it is. But if the DNA of the congregation we can be comfortable with being uncomfortable, that's a huge victory. That is that. Being comfortable, being uncomfortable. You will say to your people, you will be happy with 70% that happens here, 80%. But that 20%, because we're gonna sing, maracas or guitars or whatever. Chief Reed would say this, because they have a multi-ethnic, multicultural church. Said, well, sometimes we have gospel music, and say, well, we should always sing gospel music. Say, well, if you want to do that, there is an African American congregation that you should go, because they have gospel. So you also have to be brave enough to say, there's another option. If that's what you want, there's another option. This is what now we're doing here. When I was a pastor in my church in the inner city, I preached the same thing every January, and I learned this from Chip Reed as well. It's just to remind them of our values, our core values, our mission and vision. And I tell them, this is who we are, this is what they decided to be. And I remember my thing was, won't you be my neighbor? Like, the guy, I can't remember his name.
Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. And I will do the whole thing. I will come out with just my regular clothes, and at the time of the sermon, I will put my robe, have it a show, but and I will go through the demographics, and I will just remind us, this is who we are. These are our neighbors, and how we become part of them. And it is a process. I mean, COVID did a number of us, in us. But anyway, that's another story.
How do you, I really don't know how to ask this though, and when the cultural mind shift is opposite of what your congregational family is in the town and the area in which you have, like, one of the things that we're dealing with in Mark Tree is the socioeconomic divide of the people who built the church. They're no longer there, but they're still the well-to-do folks that the people in the town remember the church of being the bosses. And now the people that are there left are no longer that, but the mindset's still there. I don't wanna go to church with who I work with. So the socioeconomic divide
Yes.
is there.
Yes.
But it's converse in that the community has the mindset, not necessarily the congregation.
Right. I would, the same thing, I would go with a whole discernment process. I would start always with the discernment process. I think that whatever you use, it could be Canoe in the Mountains. I don't know if you have seen the 12 Books in here.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great book. But to me, the book or the instrument doesn't matter much. It is the process that you go with. And the other thing that helped me a lot in all these times where it got in kind of eerie in a way, like, we're gonna do this, it is to remind them, kind of what I said about kenosis. What is the legacy that we're gonna leave behind? When we change that to legacy, I think that is easier for them in many ways to kind of detach and say, okay, we can give ourselves away to whoever is behind us. I will give you an example. So when I was in the inner city church, they have all these endowments and things, that back in the day they meant something. And so one of the patriarchs of the church at one point said, I think that we should use this money to do whatever we need to do to become the church that is gonna be here for the next 50 years. And that was, everybody was like, yes. And when you have that kind of, even just one, that patriarch, or matriarch, whoever it is, that can say, we can give ourselves away, we can do the kenosis. I think that then you are in that other step where you can then what are we becoming then? So I think if you can phrase it or frame it and can we give ourselves away? Can we let go of this is who we are, celebrate who we are. And maybe you can, there's something that we did too, celebrate who we were. Like, it was like a 6-month process where it was a restart at church. So we celebrated who we were back in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. It was this big church. And we celebrated that. We kind of celebrated or in a way gave thanks. I mean, it was not a funeral, but it was kind of that way. And then we looked into the future as to what was next. So we did that process. It was like a 6 months process where we did that, where we celebrated the past, we give thanks for where we are now, and then we look into the future and we empty ourselves, we give ourselves away for where it is. It worked. As I said, sometimes it helps when maybe somebody else comes and tells them that. I was that person for the pastor, like, you tell them that. So I was, helps that too as well. But in the process as well, the process.
Would you talk for a minute about the flip side of the coin, the lack of success where people in churches are just determined that they're gonna be what they are and that's okay, we're gonna die. We know we're gonna die.
Yes.
How can pastors appointed there, but also how can conference leaders do hospice and graciously let them die?
Right, so we have, I can give you many examples of that. So the most recent one, there's two. One is in the inner city, southwest Oklahoma City. Southwest Oklahoma City is, they call it Little Mexico, which is, everything kind of turns Spanish, if you will. So there were many congregations there, and because of the data that I just gave you, died out. But there's one remaining. All the ones that that they were dying out, they kind of refuged to the last one. Kind of there's like an island, if you will. So this is the last one, the remaining, and they have. They are across the street from a elementary school. They could do a lot of ministry if they wanted to, but they're not going to do it. They just said, we're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. So they appointed somebody who's going to hold their hand until that one's turns the light off, and that's it. With that said, in the other that we have done is the conference has appointed somebody who is in the periphery of the ministry, doing ministry with those who are not gonna reach out by that congregation. So that's another option. It is that you appoint somebody that is gonna hold their hand and that's it. And you appoint somebody as standing for them, and then the conference, in this case, in the other case that I have, is they do the ministry that they're supposed to be doing in that church, but it's not affiliated to that church. It's its own thing. It's a kind of a new church start, almost like more like a kind of like a faith, fresh expression. Yeah, more like a fresh expression.
So you can build around them.
You can build around it. Because we know that they are not going to do anything. So the other church that I'm thinking is first they sue us during this affiliation. They lost a suit. I will give you for instance, when I went to that church, we had a retreat there, and as the air conditioning was off, and when I get in, the first thing that they say, "Oh, you come to fix the thing." I said, "No, I'm not here. I'm here for that." So anyway, that kind of church, and very conservative, theologically very white, very conservative, non-LGBTQ. I mean, everything that you imagine on the far right, that's where they are. So we know that we cannot do anything with them. So that's where there's a pastor there, attending for them, that's fine. And then there is another pastor doing this fresh expression in church house type thing. That is diverse, LGBTQ plus type thing, that all this kind of thing. So yes, you can do that.
Is Oklahoma doing, the pastor who's appointed to be the hospice pastor, was that somebody who the conference identified as that was that pastor's gift, or was it, what kind of support? Everybody sitting in this room is here because we wanna do the other thing.
Right.
But some of us get appointed to do the hospice thing, even though we wanna do the other thing. What kind of support is there?
Without support, I was gonna say, my frustration is like,
What support is there for the conference for those folks who go do hospice, go turn the light off, hold their hand while they, I mean, and let me be very clear. I think that is a very important ministry.
Yes.
I think that hospice is a vital ministry of the church, but it is a specialized ministry.
It is, I agree.
And I ain't special enough for it.
Let me think about this. Well, in the case of the other one, we're doing something else. They have, New Faith Communities have their own support groups and everything, so they have a coach and everything. For the one that it is in there, I don't know. The pastor that, as far as I know, he's still under, going through seminary and the whole thing. So I don't know if he is, maybe for him it's like his first appointment and there's not much. So I don't know how to answer that. And also I think it depends on the district superintendent. I know that some district superintendents have clusters, or I can't remember how they call it now, but anyway, where she will meet with them, with certain clergy, and talk about things, and then they go to another and talk about things, because it's kind of regional, that's what it is, regional, in their district. So it really depends on the DS as well. And it falls into also staff conference leadership. At times I have been that person that they call me and they said, okay, I need this help, so I help provide that kind of thing. So it depends. Hope that answers that question.
It sounds like there is not much intentional stuff.
No, it is more like the person seeks.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
or they get stuck there and
Oh.
unintentionally. I mean, and I think that's been my frustration, because I am in two of those churches, and it's kind of like we get put in these situations without any thought or intentionality behind it, or without any strategy or real leadership, dare I say, towards what this is actually going to look like. And then when they do come to a time where it's time for them to close, it's like, oh, we don't really know how to do that.
Yeah.
And so we're not doing it well, so
Right.
people are getting hurt.
Yeah.